Over the years, I've seen countless attempts at some really cool console sleeper builds, and always wanted to have a go at building one myself, but for whatever reason never quite got beyond the initial planning stages. But last year I decided I was finally going to see one through to the end and decided to target the GameCube as my console of choice. It's a system I grew up playing and I thought it would present a few interesting challenges when trying to create a well-executed sleeper build. The mini PC I selected ended up being the Minisforum UM870 Slim. Honestly, the primary reason for choosing it was the price, as I picked it up about a year ago in an AliExpress sale for a little under £300. Aside from obviously being a good size fit for the project, it's also packing a fair amount of power in that small form factor with a Ryzen 7 8745H processor, which should work well for some emulation and light gaming, as well as any day-to-day tasks I want to throw at it. And this is the motherboard once extracted from the case. As you can see, I made some minor modifications to the board, but nothing overly drastic. I desoldered the original power button and LED in order to wire up my own connector, and also tapped into a 5V point on the board that always receives power even when the PC is in standby mode. For the case, I did contemplate using an original GameCube shell, but I decided instead to go for a third-party clear plastic shell. These have been available at places like AliExpress for a few years now, and are honestly pretty good quality. The slightly opaque finish also means you can just about make out the highly customized internals, while still looking like a regular GameCube console at an initial glance. I've seen some GameCube PC builds that have completely gutted the inside of the shell and wanted to avoid doing that, but I did have to trim a few mounting posts towards the back to accommodate the rear I/O. The next thing I needed to do was create a mounting plate for the Minisforum motherboard, which I drew up in Fusion 360 and then sent off to be CNC milled out of aluminium. Honestly, I probably could have got away with 3D printing this part, but the aluminium adds an extra bit of structural rigidity to the case, and can also act as a heatsink for the NVMe SSD, which would be lying flat on top of it. It cost around £20 to have milled, which I thought was fairly reasonable. Once the mounting plate is secured in place, the next part is the brains of the whole project. This is a board I designed using KiCad and then hand soldered that allows the use of the original GameCube power button, reset button, power LED and controller ports. It features an Atmega 328p microcontroller running an Arduino bootloader, and receives inputs from the case buttons and sends them onto the motherboard. It's also in charge of controlling the power LED activity. Next we have an FE 2.1 USB chip, which effectively works as a USB 2.0 hub. This takes one of the USB connections from the motherboard and splits it to feed two Atmega 32U2 USB microcontrollers, which are running code that will recognise GameCube controllers when they're connected. One microcontroller handling the input for player 1 and 2, and the other for player 3 and 4. This board then connects to a secondary board I designed that contains the power LED and original controller ports and reset button harvested from a GameCube console. I applied some Kapton tape to the bottom of the PCB to avoid the small chance of anything on the underside of it shorting against the aluminium mounting plate, and I was then able to install the motherboard, making sure my power cables were routed out of the way of the RAM and SSD, along with a fan adapter which I'll come back to very shortly. Next was possibly the most time-consuming part of the build. I really wanted the original GameCube memory card ports to be usable, but obviously couldn't use them for the intended purpose of reading memory cards any longer, so I decided to hide a couple of USB ports under the covers instead. It took many design iterations in Fusion and test prints on my home 3D printer before I came up with something that I was happy with, that would fit properly into place around the USB ports on my custom PCB. Once I did, I had the part professionally printed in durable nylon material and secured it into place reusing the original screws from the GameCube memory card ports, after which the front panel can be connected with a ribbon cable and put into place. You might have noticed at this point that the motherboard is slightly offset to the right. This is to make way for the fan and power button mount, which compared to that found in the GameCube has been slightly modified to house the power button, which is harvested from an original console, and a Silverstone PWM fan that connects to the previously mentioned fan adapter on the motherboard. This part was also printed in nylon to match the memory card port cover and fits nicely to the left of the motherboard. The final part of the puzzle was a custom rear plate for the motherboard I/O. Conveniently, GameCube shells have a separate plastic piece for the original power and AV connection, so it was relatively easy to model a custom one. I had it printed with a translucent resin that matches the clear shell almost perfectly and fits seamlessly onto the back of the PC. Then I just had to screw the top half of the clear shell in place and my first console sleeper build was complete. So here are some final shots of the PC running in all its glory. The power button works as expected, but will also recognise if the PC is shut down from Windows and not power cycle when pressed again from a close position. A short press of the reset button cycles through different LED colours, including a rainbow effect option and of course a GameCube orange, while a long press switches between brightness options. All of the controller ports are recognised in Windows and GameCube controllers are detected immediately as Xbox 360 devices. And importantly, does it play games? While it's never going to be a monster of a gaming PC, it can run some modern titles surprisingly well at medium settings, as we can see here with the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark running just shy of an average of 40 frames per second. Lighter games like Sonic Superstars here run with absolutely no issues at all, and of course it can easily emulate GameCube titles which play great with the original controller. Overall, I can't emphasise just how pleased I am with the final product. Most people I've shown it to haven't even realised it was a PC in disguise until it was pointed out to them, which was really the main aim of the build, and I'm just glad I actually got around to completing a project like this one after many aborted attempts. Anyway, if you enjoyed this project, please give the video a like, comment down below what other consoles you'd like to see me give the sleeper treatment, and subscribe to see more videos like this one. I'm probably at least a couple of months away from being in a position to release anything new, but I have a few ideas brewing and hope to eventually be able to upload cool projects on a regular basis. For now, the best place to keep up to date with any of my ongoing projects is probably via my Instagram, which I'll link below, so go check it out and thanks for watching.